I watched another new documentary, which was probably one of the best documentaries I've ever seen about Led Zeppelin. It's called Becoming Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, I've seen that.
It concentrates on the first 2 years of the band, the formation, and the first 2 years of the band. And what made this documentary so great for me personally was that they did not interview any outsiders at all. It was strictly interview by the 3 surviving members of Led Zeppelin, and in current day.
Right.
And they all felt very free to speak of their history and their involvement and what they recall, and, you know, what it was like for them as young men in their late teens, early 20s to, you know, ascend to being one of the greatest, you know, rock bands in history.
And they were surprisingly open.
Yeah, very open. That's what I was.
Yeah. But I have to admit, when I watched it, I was surprised at some of the stuff that they actually said. Just because even though they have nothing to lose, you know as well as I do, these guys, once they've been ensconced in the media for that long, they really don't like to say anything that could be perceived as ugly.
Right.
And they did.
And I'll have to also have a newfound respect for Jimmy Page. I always knew that he had a hand in producing the band.
Sure.
But I never realized early on how big of a hand he had in developing the Led Zeppelin sound and recordings.
Right.
I mean, he was hands-on in the studio from day one, and, you know, where you develop that skill at such a young age, you know, because he was only in his 20s, and he figured out so many tricks in the studio to get certain sounds and certain effects and certain things. And he had a vision for how he wanted the band to sound in the studio.
Right.
And the fact that they produced their first record to completion prior to taking it to Atlantic Records.
Right.
So it wasn't a demo that they took to Atlantic. They took the finished thing to them and said, this is it. This is how it will remain. There's no remixing. There's no re-recording.
The song will remain the same.
It will remain the same. And the deal that they signed with that Amin Erteged of Atlantic is that they had full control, full reign over their own creative process, that there was no interference from the record label. So the record label needed to just accept what they brought them. And it worked out, obviously.
Yeah, it did.
So that was just an amazing documentary. It's just a little over 2 hours long, but I was captivated by every minute of that. I was just like, wow, that was fantastic. And of course, the best thing about it, so much footage, so much stuff I've never seen before. You know, so many videos. It was kind of funny because they literally were showing some of the very, very early shows that they did here in the US. And of course they weren't known yet.
Right.
So they were just breaking out. And there was one video where they showed that they took the stage for all intents and purposes. I know it was like an auditorium, but it didn't look any more than like a high school gym.
Sure.
And because they were so new and because they were unknown, people were just sitting there going, what am I watching? You know,
right.
And everybody's just kind of sitting there going, you know, got their fingers in their ears and they're just like, you know, watching it. And they're just like, what the fuck is this? You know?
Yeah. Cause it was so heavy for the time. I mean, everybody forgets, you know, that music that we played, last week or 2 weeks ago or whatever it was. Yeah. That's what everybody was listening to. I know everybody will say Blue Cheer was around and there was a couple of heavier bands that were around. But let's be honest, what people were hearing was Elvis and Herman and the Hermits and
Chuck Berry and you know, stuff like that. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you get that
I know.
What the fuck is this?
And it's just funny because the kids, there were children, very young kids in the audience and stuff, and they're sitting there with their fingers in their ears, and their parents got their arm around them, and they're just kind of like looking at each other like, what is this? What are we watching? What are we listening to here?
No.
It's so funny because everybody's so dressed all proper. They got suits and ties on, and the women, they're dressed in nice dresses and hats and everything, and they're sitting there like watching Led Zeppelin, and they're just like, what did we come to see?
Yeah, we didn't think it was going to be this, whatever this is. This is the devil's work.
Yeah, but it's certainly interesting to watch that footage. And here's something else that I found rather funny, interesting, funny. Is here we are 60 years removed from, the time Zeppelin had formed. And Robert Plant, prior to the formation of Led Zeppelin, he was out there campaigning for legalizing marijuana. He's out there marching on the streets and legalize marijuana. And I'm thinking, holy shit, this has been an ongoing thing for 60 years. It took 60 years to finally legalize marijuana.
Right.
And now that it's legalized, people are regretting it. It's like, what
is regretting it?
Oh, there's been plenty of reports out there. What it's not the economic boon that some states and some municipalities thought it would be.
I can see.
It's kind of caused some. It's actually kind of caused some more issues than what it's worth. I mean, there's some states it's still not legal, but some of the states that have legalized it, they're kind of like, oh, I kind of wish we hadn't done this. So,
well, not this one. I love it.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to talk about how that's going for you a little bit, but so that was my TV watching today. I just kind of vegged out a little bit because it was pretty warm outside, and once I got drawn into watching these documentaries, I was just, let me check out this one. Let me check out this one.